Welcome to BIA, Canada's top black media provider. Whether you're looking for shows on fashion, art, music, or simple lifestyle, we bring you the best content the black community in Canada has to offer and so much more. And better yet, do you have an idea for a project you'd like us to help you with? We provide equipment, studio, and office space, as well as a team of dedicated individuals to help you bring those ideas to life. So don't wait. Check out our new website at biamedia.ca for more information on how to contact us and start creating today. BIA Media, your way.
What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations. And I'm the host of Epic Conversations 2020, Best Podcast News Award winner, and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I am also a host of the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Men Care. It's also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And being part of that team last year was able to reach out to over 100,000 fathers and dads around the world last year. And as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We are broadcasting live March 27th in cold and snowy, believe it or not, Toronto. Spring started last week. Where is it? Don't know where it is, but we're warm in here and we got heat coming with you. As you know, or you may not know, every Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m., we do Black Canada Talking. It's a live online event that provides Black Canadians the opportunity to give their takes and POVs on stories that are of importance to them. And also we do roundtables. And today we have another roundtable, and we have a new member of our roundtable that we'll be introducing you into you in just a second. But let's first bring up Sarah Onyango. Sarah, how are you?
Hello, Dr. Vibe. I'm wearing my Duke University blue because they are in the Final Four of the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship, and I am thrilled. And I'm coming to you from Anishinaabe Algonquin territory, unceded, unsurrendered, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Okay, now we got Sarah. Now we got Cesar. Can't hear them, but I can see them.
Unmute yourself.
Now we got you. We got you both now. Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va?
Ça va très bien, merci. How are you? How's everybody?
Doing fine. Sarah, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm well. I was actually watching Cesar on a
for some reason we're not
on
hearing
a Black
Sarah.
Film Festival panel discussion.
Don't know
earlier.
What's going on Sarah's.
Is it me, or we hear Dr. Vibe, but he doesn't hear us?
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Okay, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
We hear you.
But I don't hear Sarah.
Oh, I'm not muted.
That's okay. I don't know why we're not hearing Sarah. Cesar, okay. Cesar, how are you doing? I think we'll work on getting Sarah on in just a moment. Things going well on your end?
Going well. Thank you very much. Just like you were saying, apparently it's spring, but this is Canada. It's still winter.
Yeah, it's Canada. We expect snow any time of year in Canada.
Absolutely. Most of our people need to know this. It actually once snowed in July in Canada. I don't remember the year. I don't remember the place. I don't know if it's a lie, but I was told it once snowed in July in Canada. So
Alberta.
All right, we got Sarah back. Wonderful.
It was in Alberta.
Oh, there you go. So this country is winter.
Okay. Well, you know what? we have someone new for everybody today, family. Gentleman that I've known for a while. Sarah's known for a while. For me, he's a close, not only he's close personal friend, family friend, and business associate. We have Roger Dundas, co-founder and publisher of BuyBlacks.com, Canada's #1 Black online magazine. Mr. Dundas. Yes. So good to have you.
Because Sarah did this, I have to do this too, right?
Yes.
So good to have you. And Roger has said for a long time, says, when you gonna get me on this thing? When you gonna get me on this thing? So we have got him for the next few roundtables, hopefully longer. But you know, he's a family man.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm missing Eldo.
Yes, I don't know what's going on with
to balance it off, 2 for 2.
Yes. Hey, don't worry. Sarah can hold her own just fine.
We know that.
Yes. So, Roger, for those who don't know you, can you just give a little bit of background on yourself with our audience, and we'll get right into the conversation?
Well, that's going to take up the whole hour.
Okay.
Oh, man. I'll just do a quick intro of so co-founder of BuyBlacks.com. We started that in 2013. I'm also the managing director for Convo Media Inc., which is also it's a marketing agency owned by 3 Black principals. And just happy to be here. Happy to be here to join Sarah and Cesar.
Well, looking forward to an epic conversation. Let's get right to it because there's so many conversation topics. We had to pull one off because we only have an hour. So let's get right to it. Our first conversation piece today, Blacks not wanting to go back to the office. And one major reason is microaggressions in the workplace. Who wants to start off on that one?
I saw it in an article. It was on Biz Journals, San Jose, and it was interesting because the #1 reason is the microaggression. So if you can work from home and you don't need to interact with somebody who's trying to put you down and make you feel awkward for being Black, then if you can work from home, why bother? That's a question, right?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, and people who are not Black or brown or indigenous really cannot possibly understand the extent to which these microaggressions are not only a distraction to a Black worker, but just how detrimental they are to our health. In fact, our health is impacted by it. There's a reason why we have high blood pressure, from working in certain environments. I have to say myself, I work for a media organization. I have been actually going in throughout the pandemic, except when we had the occupation for 4 days. I didn't go in because it was just ridiculous. But again, because of social distancing, they reduce the number of people that could come in. So that reduces the likely, occurrences of the microaggressions, etc. It also helps when in an organization, you work in your corner, you're in the back room. So, you're just typing away, your little worker bee. You're not really interfacing with people. And the interfacing happens by email, and emails, I hope my boss isn't listening. You can ignore those. So I'm just saying.
Oh my God.
Guys, Cesar, anything you want to add on this one?
Well, what I will say, adding to my brother, my sister, having spoken, is very much the fact that a pandemic brings changes. And when we talk about the return to work versus return to the workplace versus working from home, it's not just a conversation about real estate and what's going to happen to the offices, but it's very much the fact that for 2 years, people, notably Blacks, were subjected to the microaggressions, and we say micro, sometimes they're outright aggressions, especially when you've had to endure certain comments your whole life that non-black people sometimes put as jokes or just, um, uh, how can I put it, unconscious bias. The fact that you were able to work from home for the last 2 years basically opened an entire field in terms of a new conversation, not just in terms of leadership, but at the same time, in terms of unions, in terms of time management. But we have to be honest also in terms of salary and a potential of entrepreneurship, in terms of blacks becoming more aware that the aggression that they had to go through at work, COVID has shown that they are able to perform without having to go through them. Sure, we can talk about a certain privilege in regards to those who are able to work from home, but the reality is that it's not about a privilege from working from home. It's why we in the 21st century, with all the training, the education, and all the talks about creating more inclusive environments, creating harassment-free workplaces, and a discrimination-free society. Why are we having aggressions of all types that are leading non-white people, especially black people, to dreadfully look at returning to the workplace and to endure what for 2 years, despite the pandemic, what they didn't have to go through? This is a conversation that crosses the federal, the provincial, municipal levels, but as well the corporate sector. You don't have to take the macroaggression working from home, but even if you are in the workplace, you don't have to take it.
Yeah. You know what? In that article, Dr. Vibe, they talked about the issue of black people code switching. So, you guys are familiar with that. So,
Yes.
I'm a Jamaican, and you can hear my accent, right? So, you get into the workplace, Jamaican, Nigerian, Ghanaian, Trinidad, wherever you're from, you have an accent. And then one of the first things people would ask you is, "Hey, where are you from?" Or your name. They would highlight that your name as if it's something unique. They're not doing it from a friendly, I want to get to know you perspective. They're doing it from a othering perspective, like to say, hey, you're not quite up to scratch. You are, substandard. Your name, your accent is not really the preferred thing here. And that's been my experience working. I worked corporate 10 years, and the last job I had was a recruiter of all things. So, and in a Fortune 500 company, publicly traded, big firm. And that microaggression came head to head. So there were people, as a recruiter, we're recruiting, and I would say mostly, to be honest, mostly immigrants. The Canadians, they were it was easy for them to job switch without any help. Easier, I should say, easier. It was really the immigrants that were looking for help. And when I say immigrant, I'm an immigrant. Basically, everybody's an immigrant that are not indigenous. But you know what I'm saying? A recent immigrant. Let me correct my statement. A recent immigrant. And I remember this scenario where it was a South Asian gentleman, and his name was, I can't remember his name now, and I wouldn't want to say it, but it started with V. His first name started with V, and it was about 10 letters. And his last name started with V, and it was about 9 letters, right? It wasn't really hard to pronounce. But the white person in my office said, you know what? I don't think the client is going to want to, work with somebody, where they can't pronounce the name. So he just took the resume and threw it in the garbage. Literally, he had the paper copy of the resume and he threw it in the garbage. And so, when you talk about those are the type of things that you're facing from a discrimination, and then also from a microaggression of just looking at you and saying, hey, this guy's black, South Asian, indigenous, I'm not going to fit into this environment, so I'm not going to go ahead with that person. So these are the things. Now you can stay out of the office. You jump on some Zoom calls. That's fine, right? But you'd have to deal with it in office. You're bringing your ackee and saltfish to work, and they're like, oh my God, what's that smell? oh my God, what's your pasta smell? So, come on. Every food has a smell, So anyway, that's been my experience looking the whole microaggression thing. Well, as Cesar says, it's not even micro; it's just aggression.
Anyone else want to add?
The last thing I will just say, I'm sorry, sir, very quickly, is that as we talk about returning to work, but truly return to a semblance of normalcy, one of the things Black people get criticized a lot, because I had this conversation last week with a white lawyer, in which the white lawyer, talking about how, Black people are too sensitive. And me reminding him that unless you've gone through the Black experience, slavery, colonization, apartheid, segregation, systemic racism, and all the subtopics such as mental health, but as well always being seen first and foremost as Black, aka anything and everything negative. You cannot speak of Black people as being sensitive. We are not all the same. We are different type of Black people, different levels of resilience. But one thing that I know for sure, whether your last name is Obama, or whether you are the PhD, or whether you're a student, or whether you are the junkie down the street, ultimately you are seen and judged. Men, women, LGBTQ, religious, non-religious, whatever your identity is, you are seen and judged and treated first and foremost as Black.
Yes.
And if you think you're the exception, that's not a good sign.
Yes.
Because you're the exception that proves the norm. And I'm often treated as the exception. And that's what I remind people.
100% agree with that.
Yeah.
100%.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Sarah.
All I wanted to say was that I hope that articles like this one that Roger brought up about the reasons that not just Black people, but probably other, people of color may be reluctant to go back into the office in person, etc., that articles like this will prompt a dialogue in the workplace or continue the dialogue in the workplace that started when the George Floyd murder, got at the height of the media attention put on that. I hope the dialogue will continue, as in, oh, we have a labor shortage. My God, the last thing we need is, for an exodus of all of this Black and brown talent from our field, because they can now be consultants and work at home and do their own thing and not be subjected to all the nonsense that we subject them to every day in the workplace. Hopefully, employers are now going to be serious about harassment-free and inclusive workplaces. That's it.
Anything to add? Anyone else before we move on to our next conversation topic? Well, if not, I'm going to add in my 2-minute story in regards to microaggressions. This goes a little way back. I was the inside sales manager of a company that was owned by a couple. The owner was very British. I mean, very British. And we were looking to get some new frontline staff. So we went out to agencies and I got their resumes and I looked them over and I said, they look really good. Pass them over to the owner. He said, can we get anyone who has an English last name, please and thank you? I could tell that, there were immigrants in the last name. He says, no, I don't want any of these people because I can't pronounce their last name.
Yeah.
And what I did is I said, hey, if you want to hire what you want, you do the hiring. And I said, and I left.
Yeah, that's that. You know what? In that recruiting organization, there's so many circumstances that I got exposed to. I should mention also that there I became one of the first Black Canadian directors for that vertical that I was working in. So I was an anomaly. They treated me as such, and to what Cesar said, you kind of feel like, oh, you're not like them. That's how they would approach me. But I was still not free of the microaggressions and the comments about my accent and just and everything. So eventually you just can't stay there. That's the thing. You get uncomfortable, and that's why in that article as well they were saying I think 70% of white people feel fine about going back to work, as opposed to 54% of black people say they don't really feel like they belong in the organization. So that's something that you have to take note. What's interesting too for us, even for Buy Blacks and Convo Media, we have a work from home setup. We actually have never had an office. Never, not even then. We've been operating from 2013. We never had an office. Everybody works from home, and I kind of like it that way, where people are not just. I mean, you're working mostly. Well, you're working. Yeah, I would say mostly with people like yourselves. So there's no risk. There's no microaggression. There's no discrimination. I hope, or anything like that. But still, there's a certain sense of savings too, right? That occurs when you work from home. I tell them all the while, you don't have to dress up. You can wear a T-shirt, right? You don't have to buy clothes for work. You'd have to commute. You'd have to go out and buy lunch. You know what I mean? It's an incredible savings factor, and you have flex time. Right. So yeah, you work in 9 to 5, but let's say at an appointment in the day, you can finish up your work after 5 if you want, but we're not going to communicate with you after 5. That's the difference. They had a workplace. I can't remember the exact name of it recently, but there's a law in place now that says
yes,
you cannot communicate with your team members outside of their work time.
Yeah,
and we've tried to maintain that not only with the team members, but also with the clients.
All right. Let's move on to our next conversation topic. Make it short and simple. The Royals, 2 of the Royals were, and I don't follow the Royals, so I don't know which 2 were in Jamaica.
William and Kate.
Okay, William and Kate. William and Kate.
Kate.
Yes, William and Kate were in Jamaica this week. And now the question is, and I think we have a little video maybe we're going to play here. So, producer, if you can give us the audio. I think it's on mute.
Start from the top.
Yeah, let's. Okay, we are not hearing the audio for some reason.
Well, we can just watch.
Yeah, we'll watch. We can watch and just talk about it while we're discussing. But now we want to bring up the conversation topic. Should Jamaica become a republic? Because there is a lot of conversation in Jamaica saying we need to break away from this old time thing. We don't want we don't want to be giving money to these people on a regular basis. So let's have the comments from our panel. Should Jamaica become a republic?
But I think the first, when you look at what Barbados did, right? Of what's the term? They secede. Is that the term?
I think secede. Yeah.
Right. From the monarchy or from Britain, right? I mean, historically, I mean, it was a slave owner relationship, right? They acquired Jamaica from the Spanish, is my understanding, and they continued the slavery that was happening there, right? So all of this money that they made from slavery, right, has powered the nation of Britain. All right, so we got our independence, but what I'm trying to figure out is what is the benefit to Jamaicans for still being a part of the crown? That's a part that I'm not really understanding. Not really understanding that part, right? What do we get out of the deal? Mm-hmm. I can't get an answer from anybody. I'm telling you.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Roger in terms of like what have you done for Jamaica lately? Like seriously, it's not as if the royal family runs around being a promoter of brand Jamaica, for example. They don't run around sort of touting all of the resorts, the amazing resorts Jamaica has. It's not like the royal family necessarily advocates for Jamaica, you know, in terms of duties on their Jamaican exports, right? Of fruits, vegetables, or whatever. And it's not like any of the monuments or historic sites in Jamaica. You know, people are rushing to go see them because they are associated with the monarchy. On the contrary, people are like, a relic of slavery kind of thing. It's just a reminder of that. So there's, you know, this whole rule Britannia, Great Britain, or whatever. Empire is crumbling. And we're sort of at a crossroads. Like Barbados got the party started, but apparently it's not only Jamaica that's sort of wondering about maybe sort of growing up and leaving home kind of thing, right? Remember, they went to Belize, and I think Belize is where there were protests, like out and out. I know there were protests in Jamaica as well. I think it was Rastas that came out and were protesting. But in Belize, they you know, they were protesting against it. Plus, they were expensive. You know, every royal visit, I mean, here in Canada, every time they come here, it's tens of millions of dollars, not just in accommodation and transportation, but security.
Security.
You want to know the security bill for these people? You know, and when they come, they don't just, you know, come to Ottawa and then go home. They have to go across Canada, and there's like 6 or 7 stops and this ribbon cutting and the other thing. And we're paying for that. For what? And also in this day and age when, you know, with COVID, we've seen all of the social problems that government is not really stepping up to help fix, you know, the underhoused or unhoused, the child poverty rate, right? The infrastructure that's crumbling or non-existent for public transportation, right? Refugees, resettlement, that takes money. But we're going to spend tens of millions of dollars because Queen Elizabeth shows up here, or Camilla and Charles and whatever. And in a matter of a week or 2 weeks, we spent, you know, the budget for, you know, social programs for a city the size of Ottawa. Seriously? No, I by like 2030, I see a whole bunch of republics, you know, in the Caribbean. I'm waiting on Australia. Like, what are they waiting for?
What about Canada?
This is true.
let's start there.
Cesar, I know we'll get something good from you from your Pan-Africanist lens on this. You're smiling, so okay, go ahead, Cesar.
I was here practicing my meditation in regards to this topic, looking at one of our ancestors, Pharaoh Amenhotep IV, better known as Akhenaten. I was meditating on how to best bring it, because first and foremost, let me just say this one thing. With all my honesty, intellectual honesty, and care for our Black people, if you live in a country such as Canada or Australia, if you listen to us, and for the need of your employment or your promotion, you need to swear or whatever to the Queen of England, do it. You're not doing it because you believe or you support. You're doing it for your employment. So what I'm saying does not apply to you here. For the vast majority of us, regarding notably Black nations such as Jamaica, you see, when we talk about equity, diversity, and inclusivity, so in the professional sector, or if you want, in the United States, critical race theory, just as when we talk about geopolitics, in terms of politics, economics, globalization, but also culture and influence. In that pyramid of power, this British royal family is the epitome of privilege. They're the epitome of privilege. They are literally at the very top of the pyramid, of the iceberg, in terms of so many things that are wrong in this world. Allow me to give you a very concrete example. I always find it so sad when talking about, an example, social determinants of health, but also in the US, it's also known as social capital. The mere fact that a child is born in a place called Buckingham Palace, or last name is linked to the Windsor family, you get thousands of people will go crowding there, cheering and celebrating a child was a descendant of the kings and autocrats. I mean, people talk about Putin. Putin is lightweight to these people. These rulers who have sent the ancestors of the people cheering to die for family conflicts, to die for them to get richer, to die for the most futile reasons, which for me, when I see, and this is obviously not so much against, what's his name, Williams and Kate, they don't matter to me. I don't know them, they don't know me. But the institution they represent, especially the grandmother, Elizabeth, who has been queen since 1952, aka colonization. This woman has been queen before my father was born. They are vampires, bloodsuckers of our people, of our ancestors. It's a humiliation, a constant reminder of a painful historical past when the Black nation is part of the Commonwealth. We're talking about Jamaica, but we could be talking about Nigeria or Ghana.
54 countries.
Absolutely. It's colonization light. It's a reminder. So when you were asking, Brother Roger, what does Jamaica get from being part of it? Technically, is that if someone attacks Jamaica, England will come to protect, kind of like NATO of former colonization, former slave nations. But no, it's a humiliation. We cannot claim to be free. We cannot claim to be independent if we don't rid ourselves of such an institution. That institution, first and foremost, people have to understand, the monarchy is fundamentally a principle that goes against democracy. You cannot claim, even if you have such a thing as in England and Canada, a parliamentary regime, federalism, with the Queen as head of state, blah, blah, blah. It is anti-democratic because simply by statutes of birth, as Sarah was so well pointing out, these people are privileged. And they're only privileged because they are born with that last name and they're associated to that castle, Buckingham Palace. It would be as if today in France they had kings who were ruling, and simply because they're linked to Versailles. It would be as if in the United States you had a monarchy whose last name is Washington, or Lincoln, or Jefferson. So no, I totally oppose them, and I encourage every Black nation not only to become a republic, but truly, you have to leave the Commonwealth. Just as for Francophone nations in Africa, you have to exit France-Afrique. These are tools of colonization. And for us as individuals, because it goes on par with when I criticize the fact that as Black people, just look at my name. My name is a colonial name. A Black person called Cesar. Show me that white person whose first name is called Kofi. For all that they talk about loving Mandela and what's his name? Mandela, Martin Luther King, and Obama. When have you ever met a white person? A white child named Barack after Obama? Or Mandela after Nelson? No, we have to cut these colonization ties, whether they be in terms of republic and the Commonwealth, whether they be in terms of our name and whether they be in terms of religion as Christianity and Islam, because those are constant inferiority complexes that we subject our children to. And I see this in the high schools when our Black children, teenagers, I make them realize your first name and very often your last name are legacies of slavery and colonization. And yet the white kids, the Arab kids, the Asian kids, none of them can even think of having a Black name. Please, Sarah.
I have a question for Roger, because Roger's the Yadi in the group here.
Yes.
And Ed, I think you're Jamaican too. Do you have Jamaican ancestry? Okay, so reparations, right?
Yes.
So now that there's talk about, Jamaica, I guess, leaving the monarchy behind or whatever, where does that leave negotiations around reparations? Because that's how many 100 years that Great Britain has, basically lived off of unpaid African labor that was kidnapped, taken to,
human trafficked. Human trafficked.
It is human trafficking on a grand scale. But so, Roger, where does that leave? Reparations and the issue of the Windrush deportees. Those two.
All right.
issues.
So I have no knowledge of where the reparations negotiations are at this point, to be honest, and it's something that we personally I'm interested in to see where the current administration is going with it. What is interesting though, and I mean, what we were talking about earlier is one of the reasons, a stumbling blocks, guys, of why this has not happened and why a lot of countries are not doing it is just the sheer cost of doing it. Because now you have to unravel yourself from the monarchy, right? So you have to update every law, document everything throughout your whole legal system, throughout your whole parliamentary system. You have to remove signage. It's similar to what, and this is a funny one, to what is being talked about now with changing the Dundas street, right? So when you look at changing the street, you look at changing the signage and the this and the that and the addresses and all that. I think the first quotation was just $6 million just to do that. Oh yeah. So just imagine now that that's 6 million Canadians. So imagine that's just one street. Imagine you're gonna change the entire Jamaican government system, your entire system, not just government, but everything to do with your country, to remove the Queen from it. It's a very expensive ordeal. And really what I was saying to a friend of mine who's a historian, I was saying that really what should happen to the point of your reparations is that the reparations should pay for it. They shouldn't be doing that from out of our own taxpayer pocket, right? Kind of similar to what they did. No, what they did actually back in 1837 with the Slave Compensation Act is when they abolished slavery, rather than giving the slaves, as Americans would say, 40 acres and a mule, right? They gave them nothing and gave the slave owners money, compensation for the 40,000 odd slaves that they were losing, right? So they paid them. They took a loan. They didn't even have the money. Or better yet, they didn't want to use their own money. So they borrowed that money, compensated the slave owners, including the ones from Jamaica, to give them a leg up in continuing business, right? And the irony of it is that it only finished in 2015. You know what I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the decade of African people started in 2015. If I'm not mistaken. It did, right?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a coincidence. That is a hell of a coincidence. So the thing is, again, coming back to Jamaica, I just went there. I was there on vacation for spring break. And there's been a lot of improvements, of course, as you know, with the highway, a new highway system. Amazing. The Chinese built that for them, and they owe the Chinese money. They're paying them money. They're paying them back. Well, what I understand is the toll from the highway goes to the Chinese.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. To pay them back for building it. It's a fantastic highway, and it has really increased the transportation and business and commerce in Jamaica. So I would not say it wasn't a bad thing. But when we become a republic, we need to focus on some things. We need to focus on, I'd say 5. There's really 4 things, right? One of the first things is our infrastructure. So the road system, aside from the highway, the roads are bad. If you go into smaller communities, the roads are just bad all over, right? Not like you think our roads are, but our roads are amazing in Canada. Think about that. Our roads are amazing. Just think about that for a second. All right. So the infrastructure, buildings, bridges, etc., all that needs to be fixed. The education system needs to be fixed. Like Barbados has a 99.6% literacy rate. Jamaica is 88%. So you can see there's a big difference. And you can see it based on communicating and where Jamaicans are at in the country, right? The medical system needs to be improved. When COVID was going on, there was the shortage of hospital beds, ventilators, etc. We couldn't keep up with it. Even though the country, I think it's still the rate is 25% compared to our 25% vaccine compared to Canada's 90%, right? And then of course the other thing, the big thing I think is security. They really need to beef up and improve the security. So education, infrastructure, medical, security, and then they need to shift it so that in Canada, most people are happy to become a government worker because there's so many benefits. In Jamaica, it's not the same. So they need to change that dynamic where the government is seen as like one of the best companies to work for because they're so progressive. And I'm not sure that all of that is going to occur under this current system. So I think the republic is the first thing. It's what I'm understanding from talking to Jamaicans, it's not really anything more than the mental change, the mental slavery that's going to be removed. Of saying that we are in control now totally. Black people, as PJ Patterson said years ago, black man time now. Again, maybe that's what we really need to say. It's our time to run our own country. We can run our own country. We have all the technocrats there. We are brilliant people. You can see it that everywhere we've gone around the world. Jamaicans I'm talking about now. They are brilliant. They've done very well. Every country.
But even if you look in Canada, a lot of our political class, our entrepreneurial class, even in STEM fields.
Yeah, it's a lot of Jamaicans.
It's a Jamaican or a Nigerian.
Yeah,
basically.
I think that there's a joke that says that they sent the worst slaves. Well, not the worst slaves, the troublemaker slaves, the ones that were rebelling. They would send them to Jamaica with the pirates. That was the talk, and it's somewhat true. Some of the history, of Port Royal being run by a pirate and all of that, that's fine. But I find that Jamaicans, they tend not to take oppression too well. Most of them. They stand up to oppression. Cesar, jump in. I see that you want to.
Well, allow me to just add to what you're saying. Is it not ironic when you say Jamaicans don't stand oppression so well that Jamaica, sure, people think of Usain Bolt and they may think of Bob Marley, but really Jamaica is the land of Marcus Garvey, the greatest Pan-Africanist.
100%.
You cannot dishonor his memory. For all that, little shocker to some people, he was quite Anglophile. The notion of speaking the Queen's English or the King's English, speaking good English, but truthfully, the greatest Pan-Africanist is born in Jamaica. We cannot have this knowledge. And whether you're a Pan-Africanist or not, but simply for being Black, live well with knowledge that we keep the great island of Jamaica under the boot of the Commonwealth, aka the British monarchy. The island next door, Haiti, freed itself over 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think white supremacy, I'm not saying white as individual, but really white supremacy as an ideology has done so well to convince people that the Haitian adventure, in terms of what it looks like now, in terms of poverty, violence, etc., but as well the fate of too many African countries, and we can add here diseases and, bad governance, is an ultimate fate of any Black nation, and by extension, community, and by extension, individual, would dare to truly want to be free. And this is very much damaging the psyche of our people. When you look, even in terms of our leaders and those who represent us, when you look at even someone as Obama, the symbolism that I celebrate of him is to have shown that as a Black person, you can reach the very top. Yeah. Whether it is thanks to whites, whether it is whatever we want to call it, whether you be the darkest skin or you be Black mixed with green eyes, you can reach the top. That's symbolism. But concretely, Obama has done nothing for Black people and for Africans, concretely. And as such, it shows in the psyche of the fear, the psycho-emotional fear that becomes ingrained in all of us and that is passed on to our children, that to dare to really stand up in speech and in actions as unapologetically Black will lead to a dire fate. We must end that notion.
Yeah.
We cannot tell our people to be free, to honor Marcus Garvey, and even if we talk about, let's say, our entertainers, Usain Bolt. It's beautiful to see Usain Bolt, but forgive me, our ladies of Jamaica are sprinters. It's beautiful to see them win and to show the flag of Jamaica. I take honor when people see my seashell earrings, my kori, and they ask if it's from Jamaica because they see the colors. I take pride in it. They know Jamaica. But to what extent are they willing to have a conversation about how much you really claim to like Jamaica if you are okay with Jamaica being under white supremacy, such as this British visit, royal British visit?
Mm-hmm.
What Black couple, not even Obama and Michelle, get this type of welcomes when they go to white countries where they have newspapers that refer to them by the N-word, that associate them to monkeys, that masculinize Michelle Obama.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reality. Roger, I'm looking right behind you. We have another Jamaican, Biggie Smalls,
Yeah.
WGIG.
Yo,
Biggie was a yardie.
There you go, known worldwide, born in Jamaica.
Yeah.
But
he was born in the U.S., I believe, based on his documentary.
His mother.
His mother.
Is
Yes, his mother. Sorry.
Yeah.
Wallace.
But
Yes.
to what extent, especially us as Black people, are we willing to say we are Black and proud, but we have to cut these ties of colonization? Not everybody has to have the fist raised high like this, but even in tending the hand to do business with non-whites, we have to keep our dignity. And our dignity starts with truly our freedom.
100%. You know what's interesting what you said. And I have this conversation all the time with Jamaicans, different types of Jamaicans, about being African Jamaican. Let that sit there for a second, as opposed to Chinese Jamaican, because that's how they refer to themselves, Jewish Jamaican, right? So there's that. It's like a Chinese American, a Chinese Canadian, African Canadian. There's African Jamaicans. Jamaicans seem to think that you're not quote unquote a race. You're an island that was colonized and slaves were brought there from Africa. So if you're Black and you're there, as Peter Tosh said, no matter where you come from, as long as you're a Black man, you are an African. And there are people on there who said that we're not Africans, we're Jamaicans. So as I said, there's a lot of I bring up that point to say there's a lot of there's a lot of unlearning and self-love that needs to start happening, and it can only happen with education. That is it. So when I talk about this thing about education is not just saying, hey, we're going to throw the kids in school and let them learn 1 + 1 = 2. It's about learning the right history. When I was in school in Jamaica, they were teaching me about Spaniards and the British. They weren't teaching me anything about Africa and where we were from, the African slaves, where they settled. They taught us about the Maroons, because you couldn't help but teach us about the Maroons because they were so powerful. Right? They beat the British. Okay.
All right. Good stuff.
So we'll say that.
Anything else before we move on to the next subject? All right, we're good. All right, next up, let's talk about the Republicans' performance at Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson's Supreme Court nomination hearings this past week. Sarah, go ahead.
Can we play that clip? Do you have that clip when Ted Cruz was interviewing her?
No.
Harassing
You know
her?
what? No, listen. Can we not actually give these repugnant Republicans any more spotlight than they already have? Because basically what we're doing is overshadowing the Black excellence of the Honorable KBJ, Ketanji Onyeka Brown Jackson, who was not asked about her legal as much about her legal background, about her experience on the bench, of which she has lots, about her academic credentials, about her community service, about her public service. None of that from Republicans. No, you're getting questions about defining what a woman is, and this is from a woman, Senator Blackburn. You've got the Ted Cruz moment that Roger's referring to was the children's books and being asked if she thinks babies are racists, and that basically CRT in schools can be reduced to that kind of thing, as if CRT is even taught at that level.
Sarah, I was embarrassed that a Latin American man was asking that question. I like leave. I thought that would have come from a white man and not a Latin American man.
Roger, he considers himself as a white man first.
Oh, that's sad.
Ted Cruz has no level.
No, remember, there's no bottom. There's no bottom.
There's no bottom
for Cancun Cruz at all. There's no bottom. None. There's zero. And apparently there's no bottom for Lindsey Drama Queen Graham either. What really outraged me, there was so much going on with Lindsey Graham because he was trying to pit one Black woman against another Black woman. You remember, I think it was day two, where he was going on and on about how come Biden didn't choose Michelle Childs from South Carolina, which is his home state. And he was going on, and he was asking Judge Jackson what she thought about what, President Biden's choosing her over Judge Childs and that sort of thing. That is such a typical, white person thing to do when they're not getting their way, where they pit, the two Black people against each other like that. But what I want to remember from the 4 days is Senator Cory Booker and how a Black man stood up. A Black man stood up for a sister. Yes, a Black man stood up for a sister and talked about a whole bunch of Black joy and Black pride, Black history, Black excellence, Black brilliance, Black everything. Mm-hmm. Those Republicans, whatever they said, needs to be a footnote anyway, because none of them going to vote for her anyway. And all we need is the tiebreaker vote from Vice President Kamala Harris, a Black woman, break the tie, confirm her already. Manchin has confirmed he is voting for her. The other senator, we haven't heard from her, but chances are she's going along too. So,
We're Christian cinema.
Oh God.
Cesar, your comments.
What I will say is very simple. The Republicans made a mockery of themselves, and I'm not saying this as just to criticize them, but you see, they claim to hold the moral high grounds in terms of reference to Justice Kavanaugh, that Judge Jackson would not be subject to some below the belt type of questioning. That's what they had claimed from the start. Uh, and unfortunately, but should I say unfortunately, but very predictably, they were really Republicans. As I'm saying that, we have to be strategic here. We have to think strategically. The year is 2022. You have Senate elections that are coming in November. A lot of these Republicans, if you are to be honest, is it really the Republicans or the Trumplicans? Donald Trump is very much like a virus to the Republican Party. And as such, the very notion of a black woman to be judged on the Supreme Court, Justice Jackson, don't get it wrong. They all love Michael Jackson, but Ketanji Jackson, that doesn't sit well with them. It's a seat of power. It's a prestigious seat. It's a seat for life. And they see her as one of those dangerous radical lefties, aka she doesn't exactly sound, I hope I'm wrong, she doesn't sound like she would be another Clarence Thomas, aka affirmative action led this black person there. The efforts, of course, but greatly affirmative action. And then they switched to show that they're even more conservative than many whites are. Judge Ketanji Jackson, soon to be, next week, Justice Jackson scares them. She scares them because she represents absolutely the enemy, the domestic enemy. You see, for conservatives, such as Republicans, but as well as conservative right in Canada, the number one domestic threat is not called white supremacy. The number one domestic threat is all those dark-skinned faces that are rising, especially if they're also women, because by default of conservative values, things such as abortion, women's rights, on top of voting, on top of minorities' rights, she represents all of that. And how does she show up there with dreads, with an Afrocentric look? So, and this is a little criticism to some of my black brothers who were bashing the fact that she has a white husband. I'm sorry. Let us stop wasting time in foolishness. Yes, her husband is white. Yes, Kamala Harris' husband is white. Yes, Clarence Thomas' wife is white. Yes, 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 yes. But at the same time, if you really talk about symbolism, do not forget it is her efforts that have led her there. And no matter the skin color of the person with which she is with, her efforts are first of all paramount, and the symbolism. So going back to Obama, who has a black wife, so to prove you can be a black couple and reach the very top. So just as for Obama, the symbolism of a black female judge in the Supreme Court, because if you are honest, Clarence Thomas is an absolute failure in terms of black pride. But I have hope that Justice Ketanji Jackson will be able to be a role model to so many black girls and boys, notably those who are pursuing a career in law, but notably in terms of standing up and working hard to fight all these Republican legislations that are aiming at curtailing the votes of minorities, because the Republicans know they cannot count on the white birth rate, and they cannot count on white immigration. They're not trying to have the 4 million Ukrainian refugees to move to the United States for white votes. I'm just going to leave it there. But I'm glad you all understand what I was talking about.
Oh, gosh. Oh, boy. Anyone?
Oh boy, that's a dagger. That went straight to the heart.
Eddie, okay, before we finish out, Cesar, I know you wanted to put out a little quick thing about the liberals and the New Democrats making a deal to preserve the minority government. Quick.
Very quickly, look, I've always been one to say that the NDP is useless in terms of politics. No, I'm not saying that to be harsh.
Please don't hold back, please. Don't hold back.
No, I'm not saying that to be harsh. My honesty, my friends who support the NDP, they know this about me. I've always said that. The number one rule of politics is to get to power. Number two is to remain in power. The NDP in Canada is a party that will not come to power federally in the current context, even despite COVID. As such, the third alternative for them was to tie up with the Liberals. And many of you know the conversation, which has often been the case in Canada, should the NDP just merge with the Liberal Party in order to really bring leftist, socialist, blah, blah, blah policies. This is what they did. It's not a coalition, it's an agreement. For the first time, I'm as blunt and honest as you know me. For the first time, I can truly say Jagmeet Singh has acted as a true politician, has acted as a man of power, and I can say I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him because this agreement that the conservatives try to paint as anti-democratic, hypocrites as they are, this agreement is good for Canadians. Dental care, pharma care is absolutely needed, notably for so many Black people whose household don't make $90,000. They need this. White, poor Canadians need this. How can you be against this? How can you claim to care about the people and be against this when we know so well with COVID, it's not just inflation, it's a loss of buying power. It's an increase in terms of mental health. It's basically such demographic changes. And now we're about to have, I don't know how many, and I'm going to say it, I don't know how many Ukrainian refugees are going to come and they're going to get VIP treatment compared to all the Somalis, the Afghans, the Syrians, the Congolese, the blah, 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 blah war, not white and Christian. Thank you, Jagmeet Singh. Thank you, Justin Trudeau. It was bold. It was brave. You know what it's called? It's called realpolitik. This is what it's about. So that's what I wanted to say. It's a good thing for Canada, and it will benefit not just Blacks and non-whites. It will benefit a lot of poor whites because let's not get it twisted. There are far more poor whites in Canada than there are more for poor Blacks. We all need this for everyone.
Just based on the numbers.
Sarah and Roger, anything you want to add?
No, Roger didn't say anything about Judge Jackson.
No, you know why? Because Cesar, I think he encapsulated every thought I had about that idea of her becoming the next Superior Court judge. So
what? Oh,
so but the thing about this, the whole thing with the NDP and the Liberal Party, my observation, and I communicate a lot, let's just say, as Sarah does, with a lot of politicians, right? We communicate a lot with politicians, and particularly with the Liberal and the NDP party. I do not communicate a lot with conservatives. So whatever the reason, they don't seem to like buy blacks that much. Let's just say
they don't recognize systemic racism.
Right. Thank you. But what I noticed about the NDP versus the Liberal, and specifically around picking Black candidates, that they do not pick good Black candidates. That's been my personal opinion. We have a few, when I say we, I'm not NDP, but there are a few good currently elected officials in the NDP. The elected ones are amazing. But the ones that I see sometimes running, I'm like, how did they even get selected? How did they pass the vetting process? to get there. I will not name names. And they have never won. Anyone that I've looked at, I said, there's no way that person is going to win. They have never won.
Roger, I'll be honest with you because I've actually had this conversation in in the Black Leaders WhatsApp group. I'm going to be very blunt. We have Black candidates for the NDP, but also for conservatives and liberal.
Yes.
Very honestly, and as much as it can offend some people, sometimes they just run to have something to put on the resume, to claim they have run. They don't run to win. They don't even run to represent. They don't have no hope of winning. The parties put them in place just to say they have a candidate, fully expecting them to lose. And some of them are complicit to the fact that they want to be able to beef up their resume in order to be able to claim that they ran in politics.
What I wonder, Cesar, is how does that help? If you know, because
it gives a sense of prestige. It gives a sense of commitment, of involvement. It gives a sense of, you can be on a panel, it's calculations.
I wouldn't bring them on a panel. The ones I'm referring to, I would never bring them on a panel.
But
I don't respect their opinion. So you'll never see them on a buy blacks. I'm just saying, I could lie here and be politically correct, but I would never bring those people on any panel.
Roger, it's not by blacks panel they want to be on. It's CBC and CTV.
I know.
And Leroy and all these people. Yeah.
What's concerning too is the what I think we should also talk about is this new candidate for the MPP Conservative Party that's going to be running in what's the area again? What's the riding again? The former chief of police, Mark Saunders.
Oh yes. Who's running in Don Valley in the Toronto area? Yes, can't remember the name of the exact riding. It was formerly the former leader of the Ontario Liberal Party, Kathleen Wynne. He's running in her riding.
But didn't no, I was gonna say Michael Couture. No, he's in West. Okay.
He's in West. But yes.
So that's interesting because I don't feel like Saunders as nice a guy as I think he is. I don't feel like the police force really supported him.
Yeah, I've had
even the black officers.
Yeah, I've had a number of back channel conversations with people. A lot of people don't like him.
Yeah, as nice a guy as I think he is. I don't think that
black and white and black. A lot of black people don't like him.
So I'm surprised that he would flip over now to the political arena. Also with his health challenges to take on even more stress. So I'm not sure, but again, to Cesar's point, maybe sometimes it's just to put on a resume, to increase your resume, and there's who to tell. I mean, the Conservatives may very well win that seat.
Sarah, you are very much involved in the political world, so would love to hear a little bit about this before we close it down.
No, I'm not going to comment so much about that, but just to remind people that the Ontario elections are June 2nd. So guys, whoever's out there, you are an Ontarian, you're over 18, make sure you're registered, you're on the voters registry, and get ready. If you have to do early voting, do that. If there are other ways to vote, do that. But please participate.
I think that if I was to say one thing about this coming election, a lot of it hinges on this COVID, how Doug Ford has done to manage the COVID pandemic. And at first, it seemed as if he was doing an amazing job. I must say, I was pleasantly surprised at first, but it ended up pretty bad. So I'm not sure of Ontarian support for the Conservative government going forward. I'm unsure.
COVID and economics, inflation, the gas price, Ukraine, COVID and economics.
And look at Trudeau having a COVID election, and that got him a minority.
Yeah.
So, Ford may well be heading to a minority, especially with all those, the anti-vaxxer freedom convoy type folks in Ontario, yes, who are out to get them because of the mandates.
Yeah.
Then, so quick thing, who are the anti-vaxxers going to vote for?
Well, this is the advantage of Doug
Party.
Ford. They're not going to vote for Liberals because in Canada, people tie federal politics to provincial. So they see, we've seen the Liberal leader. He's not exactly the most inspiring gentleman, if I dare to put it that way. But I'm sorry, these anti-vaxxers are not going to vote for Liberal. I don't see the Liberals winning. Like Sarah was saying, in Ontario, I see Doug Ford winning, but with a minority government.
Yeah. He's not going to landslide again, though. I don't think so.
All right. Well, as that election gets closer, I'm sure we'll have a number of conversations about it here. But I'd like to say thanks to everyone for taking the time today. Sarah, as always, we go ladies first. Where can people get in touch with you?
blackonblack891 at hotmail.com, and our show airs every Saturday from 11 a.m. to noon on CHUO 89.1 FM.
Thank you so much. Sarah. I'm not Sarah. I mean Cesar.
So my people, you can all reach me. Actually, I'm blocked on Facebook. Don't worry. It's just for another 3 weeks. Yes. I posted about animal rights. Of course, I did it my way. Facebook didn't like it. But I got apologies from Facebook because they deleted some of my other posts, and I challenged them. But don't worry. You can reach me on Facebook, Cesar Remy, R-I-M-Y, Emery, E-M-E-R-Y, and let us continue the great conversations and topics. I am enjoying being blocked this month. The fight continues.
And Roger Dundas.
Yeah, you know where to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I actually, Cesar, I came off of Facebook in 2019 and Twitter, and I've never been on Instagram. So I know that they have blocked by blacks several times now, and we just can't get a solid reason of why they shut down our accounts. So we don't know.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for taking the time today. And again, thank you, Roger. And looking forward to having you part of more conversations.
Duke.
Yeah, okay.
Manu.
Just one quick message.
Yes.
In a very odd and maybe it seems contradictory, the soccer team, the Canadian soccer team, qualified against Jamaica to make it to the World Cup.
So they won today. Okay.
I don't know if they won, but they did score that one goal that they needed.
That's it. We're in.
All right.
We're off to Qatar.
Thank you so much, each one of you. My name is Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner, given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I host the only online conversation world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care and co-sponsored by DAD, Central Canada's National Fatherhood Organization. As always, I'd like to thank everyone who watched this live or on the replay. And as always, I close out, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get small to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. You can also catch me 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday and Friday mornings, co-hosting The Morning Vibe with Ryan Knight, co-founder of the Afro-Canadian Business Network. And on Saturday evenings, 9 p.m., I host and produce State of Things with Aisha K. Staggers and Jill Jones. Next week on Black Hannah Talking, we have the founder of Black Comic Company that's based here in Toronto, Black Focus Comics. So check us. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. Especially follow me on YouTube and Instagram. You'll get notified on the upcoming conversations. Much thanks to BIA Media. God bless. Peace to you all. Keep the faith. Remember to give yourselves grace. And it's important to manage your time, but it's more important to manage your energy. Bye, everybody.
Ottawa's Black Business Alliance, a place where you can learn to be your own person and build the future you want for yourself. Our mission is to help young entrepreneurs achieve their business goals through the best coaching, managing, consulting, and a slew of other services. Together, we can become a pillar in the Afro-Canadian community. Don't hesitate to contact us through our website at www.oba.ca, and remember that building tomorrow starts today. OBA Consulting. Take hold of your future.